All right, everybody. Welcome to the first ever Take Your Pick podcast. I'm here with Sean and Rob. Um, and we're just going to get right into what everybody watched last night, and that's the Eagles Redskins game. I have a couple big takeaways from it, a couple weird points to go over. But I want to start out with, in my opinion, the most important part of this Eagles season, and that's Nick Sirianni finding the team's identity in his first year, which I find insanely impressive, and then sticking to it. Last night we saw it yet again, dominate on the ground, stick to your guns, and you probably, in my opinion, have the second or the best offensive line in the NFL, and you just run behind it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like the offensive line has come a long way, and the run game has come a long way since the game we watched in Dallas, where I don't think I've ever seen the Eagles get dominated on both ends of the line of scrimmage from start to finish in one game, like I've ever seen in that game. So I think since then you have included a span of this now 7 games with over 100 and it was 150 rushing yards or
I think it's
175 rushing yards.
175. Yeah, yep.
175, right? Since the 85 Bears, which, it's not bad company, I guess, for a Super Bowl champion. Not saying the Eagles are necessarily, making themselves known as a Super Bowl contender at this point, but to your point, Mike, I think the coach is doing what he needs to do, to move the ball with what he's got, and that's including making the most out of Jalen Hurts. And I think that's why Jalen's looking as good as he is in the stretch.
Yeah, I feel like so there were two bad plays. One of them, in my opinion, wasn't his fault. And here's another thing. Dallas Goedert is what he is. He's an upper middle class tight end. He makes some plays and then makes some terrible plays. But that fumble, you got to get the ball out. But after that fumble, I saw it going one of two ways, where he still hadn't had a division win, being 0-4, and it could have went sour for the Eagles, and it did trend that direction for a little bit. But the way he persevered through it, I'm going to give him a lot of credit. He made a lot of tough throws. That pass and catch to Devontae Smith on the sideline, I haven't seen an Eagles wide receiver be able to do that in a long time. And that was just a glimpse of hope for me. It was nice to see a Greg Ward sighting. My one knock on him was on that when they were on the 5. He made up his mind pre-snap where he was going with the ball, and that was to the corner and almost got Devontae Smith killed. There were people wide, like Kenneth Gainwell was wide open. Dallas Goedert had separation. I'm sitting here from my couch saying this, so take everything with a grain of salt. But I don't know if you guys saw that differently. I just know there are plays where he has it predetermined in his mind what he's going to do with the ball, and that's all well and good sometimes. But in that moment, you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're seeing him miss plays on our couches, then you can only imagine what the coaches in the booth are seeing on an all 22, right? Like, there's plays out there, and I think it's still known that there are plays out there. And you mentioned Gainwell, and he was pretty in the clear on that Goddard play. And there's other opportunities too. There was the long ball. Was it to Smith as well earlier in the first half, where he hits him a little bit further in stride or on the inside, then that's a big gain, if not a touchdown. So there's still some of that, and it's funny because I think it was. I forget what crew had the game on the weird Tuesday night slate for Fox, but they mentioned, Devonta Smith being able to take the top off the defense. And, it'd be great, to have someone like Deshaun Jackson to be able to take the top off the defense at any point. And perhaps Smith can do that, but I need to see more out of Hurts in terms of his, downfield passing in order to say that we have that as like a viable threat. I think for now it's to continue to ground and pound as much as you can. And then in the alternative, make the most of Jalen's legs to get those yards too.
Yeah, I feel like a big issue in Philadelphia is they want Jalen Hurts to be Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, where we're talking about generational Hall of Fame talent, and he's just not. The guy's capable of winning any football game, but he's also capable of losing you any football game. So when you get a good decision-making Jalen Hurts and when he's playing confident ball like he did, I want to say from the second quarter on, he could beat anybody. Weird point I wanted to bring up. I don't know if anybody else thinks this. Why does the defense come out so slow? It seems every first
Honestly,
quarter.
I have no idea.
Do you know what I'm saying though? It's like every
It's
first
definitely
quarter.
a frustrating defense. It's not a talented defense. You know, there's like there's a bunch of holes. I think we're relying on Gannon to produce with really not much outside of Slay. I mean, Hargraves is having a good year. Cox has clearly lost a step. Josh Sweat, you don't have any linebackers. I mean, you can't really expect too much from them, in my opinion.
I agree. Then do we give credit to the DC being able to make adjustments because he does seem to come up with some really big stops once he figures out what the opposing offense wants to do? Like, should we be giving him more credit, or does it look like they're unprepared in the beginning? I'm just confused because I agree with you, but either he needs to get a pat on the back or they're going in with the wrong game plan to start.
I wouldn't pat anybody on the back until we could start pressure on the quarterback. You know, you guys in our text thread last night, you guys saw me. I was at that game Tuesday night. I forget what year it was now. The Joe Webb game against the Vikings, where we got delayed on a Monday night because of the snow. We went out Tuesday night. Joe Webb starting. Who is that? We got this, and then it was one of those nightmares. You leave the stadium shaking your head like, what happened? So like when I was seeing the turnovers early in the game and Garrett Gilbert having all day last night to pass, that was concerning. Not to be able to get a little bit more pressure on a guy off the street. And I totally understand. Like if you want, there's different looks. So at one point they were showing blitz, but they would back off to confuse them. Naturally, the guy coming in off the street, first thing you're going to want to do as a DC is probably confuse them, mix it up a little bit, really make them look lost out there. And again, generally, and that worked well. But again, there were at times during the game last night where he had a lot of time, too much time to throw. And, that's okay against a guy like him. But if you want to compete for a playoff spot and, ultimately get in the playoffs, you're going to need to generate pressure, on the quarterback. And the Eagles, I don't have it exactly in front of me, but I know I'm willing to bet they're in the bottom third in blitz rate, right, this year. So they don't blitz often. And that's okay if you can get pressure with your front four, but I'm just not seeing enough production consistently out of just the front four, to say that they're going to be able to generate enough pressure on a playoff caliber quarterback to be able to, to make that next jump.
Okay. Since you brought up the playoffs, I know what that was last night was when you won a game that you had to have with a favorable situation. So I'm not putting a ton of stock into what they did last night. They looked very, very beatable in the beginning, but they got it together, figured out a way to pull out a W. This week is, as being an Eagles fan my entire life, this week looks like the spot that they would blow it against Mike Glennon. So, like, you just can't do it. And unfortunately, you break it down, you look at some of the matchups of other teams, like you see the Vikings have the Rams, Packers, and the Bears to wrap it up. We have the Giants, the Redskins, and the Cowboys. You're going to play a Giants team that's packing it in for the season. You're going to play a Redskins team that'll be a tough game, I think, the second go around. And then you play the Cowboys the last week, and that has always proven to be a tough game no matter what. Looking at the way it's shaken out, I'm not saying that they're in the driver's seat. You can't. But I like their odds to squeak in much more than a lot of these other teams. And And then when you think about it, even it's getting ahead of ourselves, if they do by some chance get in, if I'm that 4 seed, I don't want to play the Birds. I would rather play the Vikings, personally. I'd rather play Kirk Cousins and a poorly coached Vikings team than play the Eagles that fully commit to a gritty 60 minutes of football.
Yeah, you make a good point. And it looks like the way it's shaking out right now, you have the NFC West teams bunched up. Between the Cardinals, who are holding, I think they're tied. But I think they have the tiebreaker over the Rams right now. And then you have the Niners right behind them as well. So all those teams sit at 10-4 now in that around that third, fourth spot. So it might come down to what who takes that division, who the seventh team, possibly the Eagles, could be matched up with, and depending on what happens in Arizona, again, you look at those quarterbacks, and we've seen the Niners. I was at that game. I watched that game. That was a very, very winnable game. One of those classic Eagles. Kind of let one get away from you there. But otherwise, you're looking at teams in Arizona and Los Angeles where, like we said, you got to get after those quarterbacks if you're going to have a chance. Well, two very different quarterbacks, granted, but in order, but two at the the highest level in what they do, in Murray and what his mobility, and then just the way Stafford could light you up from the pocket. And either way, you're going to have to take care of them.
Yeah. Sean, I think we were talking about it earlier. This might be my last Eagles point. It felt great to see some Andy Reid pre-snap motion last night. Just having linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, everybody was confused. But the beauty of it wasn't flashy. And then you saw Darius Slay come in. You have them think we're going to do something cute. And then it's like, no, we're just going to stick to our bread and butter. Like, I'm ready to say I like Nick Sirianni a lot. In the beginning of the season, everybody wanted this guy's head. And honest to God, after giving him some time, he seems to know his players. They seem to buy into what he's doing. And he's starting to call some really good football games. We'll see come Sunday. I think this is the real test. But I'm starting to believe. And this is coming from me, of all people. I'm the biggest pessimist there is. So when I say that, it kind of hurts internally for me. So I don't know if you guys have jumped ship on him and come back with me, or if we're all still ready to send him packing, but I'm not.
No, I'm not either. I love what he's doing with the run. I love that. I mean, I know in his ear is Howie and Jeff saying, yo, we want to pass. And he's just every week with the run. Once he found out who they are, I love that he stuck to it, because I think that takes some balls right there. Because, the report after the Packers game 2 years ago that they're calling Doug into the office to say we need to pass more and all this bullshit. Like, the guy is winning games, and I love that he's sticking to it.
Yeah. Okay. I think I covered everything I needed to talk about and get off my chest from last night. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add to that?
No, I think it was when it comes down to it, I think it was a good win. It did look ugly in the beginning, but then again, the NFC East games, they often at some points do get ugly, but they grinded it out. They got the win they needed, and it's going to be a tough, short week. But the fortunate thing is you are playing Mike Glennon and the Giants, so you can't have another letdown like you did in the Meadowlands a couple of weeks ago. It's a home game, so that should help as well. You got to get back out there and ready for another dogfight, and you just got to pull out another win from a bad team.
Yeah. I like them. This week, but we'll get into that one on Sunday. All right, real quick. I have a couple questions about the AFC. That entire playoff picture, I'm just looking at it right now, is a disaster. And I love it. I love every part of it. That 3 teams that are out could all be in next week. and then it could all flip flop. I think these next 3 weeks, I want to just say this might be one of the better finishes in the NFL that we've seen in a long time. And here's a little interesting take. Does that Steelers tie kill them, or does that sneak them in?
Who do they have left? You know?
The Steelers, that whole division pretty much just scraps it out with themselves. The Steelers have the Chiefs, I believe the Bengals, and possibly the Bengals or possibly the Ravens or the Browns. I'm not positive off the top of my head, but it's a combination of that. All 4 of those teams all gutted out the next 3 weeks.
They have Cleveland the week after this with their date with Kansas City, and then the last week I would imagine is probably the Cincinnati game you're thinking of. So they do end.
I mean, that's the Steelers could get blessed.
I'm sorry, it's Baltimore. It's in Baltimore. They end the season in Baltimore. So at Kansas City, home against the Browns, and then at Baltimore. So that's not an easy finish for them. I don't see
the
that.
The Bengals played this week, right?
The Bengals play the Ravens. Yeah, you're right.
And the Ravens. Yeah, wow. So they're just, I don't know. That's tough.
I think that tie is going to save the Steelers, and if they beat the Ravens the last week, they sneak in and win that division.
Which game do you see? You see how many of those games do you see them winning to get in? They'd have to win at least 2 or 3, and I don't see them winning 2 or 3 of those games.
Well, if they play the Chiefs without all their weapons, they'll beat the Chiefs.
Are the Chiefs in COVID hell right now?
Oh my God, yeah. Tyreek's out, Travis is out. So that right there, you're losing 300 yards of total offense a game just with those 2 players alone. But I'm not going to take it away from Andy, like that he can't put something together with all that speed he's still going to have. And like we were saying earlier, the Steelers defense hasn't been what it was. But I think that Mike Tomlin and that crew, they'll figure out a way to beat up Chiefs team. The Ravens, they get Lamar back on a revenge game after they got smoked by the Bengals last time. I don't know. The Ravens have lost by a combined 4 points in the last 3 games, I think it was. Something insane. So I have the Ravens.
Is Lamar definitely back?
I think he has to be, no? If he sits out this
week.
I
mean, it seems like.
Seems like what?
I mean, it seems like everyone loves. I didn't watch a ton of that Packers-Ravens game. It seems like everyone loves this Huntley kid now. Like, I hear people saying Lamar Jackson should just sit down and come back full strength.
Come on, bro. That was the way I fell in love with Taylor Heineke. Come on. Like, he went and Heineke went toe-to-toe with the GOAT. Huntley went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers, who some people crown the GOAT for some reason. I can't figure out why. But he put up a great game. He played out of his mind. Missed a lot of passes, but he made a lot of good decisions to move the ball. I like the kid, but he's not Lamar. Nobody is.
Lamar did not practice today, and his status is up in the air. I mean, if we're betting on it, I'm wagering like maybe they do sit him another week. And this kid had a good game against a pretty good team in Green Bay, and they kept that to a 1-point game. Was it 4 touchdowns, 2 in the air, 2 on the ground? If Lamar's not 100%, like you said, like I could see them, having him rest another week and then give Huntley another run at it.
The line's sitting at -3. You don't think that's a little bit short if the backup quarterback's playing?
I think if you were to take the Bengals, you would take it right now. Or no. If you were to take the Ravens,
I'm just saying.
So it's that -3 undecided quarterback situation.
Cincinnati.
Or are they set like?
Yeah,
does that line
even teams with an undecided quarterback? I feel like they're saying Lamar Jackson's. They think he's going to go.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you would take. So you would take the Ravens right now at +3, or you take the Bengals. I think
if you think he's going to go.
I just like that Ravens team more. They're more experienced. The Bengals, it's kind of like what we talked about last week. Like, and now we're getting into the grit of it when these are the growing pain weeks where it's like this week they put up a good season. These next 3 weeks tell me, are they ready to take the next step? And personally, I just don't think with that O-line and D-line that they are. And the Ravens are just built to hurt you. And that coach, Harbaugh, has been there a million times. So many people in that locker room have. I lean Ravens in that. And then especially if Lamar's playing, I think he's got a point to prove. And Lamar Jackson's one of those dudes where it's like, oh, people are calling for my job now. I just got an MVP. I'm that dude. And I think he'll show it if he spins this weekend. But
and they got smacked the first game, right? The Bengals
got killed. I think they came back, right? Okay. But like it wasn't really a ball game at all.
And they're definitely that more desperate team at this point, right? Like again, those grinded out weeks, like you're saying. To me, it's like, all right, who needs it more? Who's the desperate team here? And Cincinnati came off a big win last week in Denver. You mentioned the close calls that Baltimore's had for a few weeks in a row now. They had one last week against Green Bay. I think they're going into Cincinnati as thinking that they need this. I mean, they went to what you said earlier. They're one of those teams that did just exactly what you said in the AFC. They were sitting at number 1, number 2 for for midway through the season, and now 2-3 weeks later, they're on the outside looking in as it stands now. So I mean, they're the more desperate team, and they're the better team. And I think, and it may be regardless of the starter. If you can get a performance like that out of Huntley or something close to it again, it may not make a difference. I think because they're the more desperate team, I would lean their way, but I don't know if I would pull the trigger on that line yet. Again, because I think if Huntley is playing and you think he could go out there and sling it close to what he did last week, I think you wait for that line to climb after that news comes out.
Yeah, I think I would wait to pull the trigger on that regardless. But we do have a really big game. These are two teams that are in good spots right now, and back-to-back losses for the Titans could hurt them because the Colts are kind of ripping and roaring. Who do we like tomorrow? At +3? I would
lean to the Titans here.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning as well.
I think they can hold that San Francisco run game in check. Do I like it enough to bet it? Probably not. Like I was saying last week, I can't back this Tennessee offense. There's nothing good about it right now. I mean, they're getting A.J. Brown back. I don't really care. He's been whatever this entire season. I mean, without the real run game and the play action off that and the bootlegs off that, and this team is irrelevant to me, to be honest.
So you don't like the Onta Foreman?
This year.
So you don't like the Onta Foreman running for 120?
He's whatever to me. Like, I don't buy that because he did that to the Steelers. The Steelers, I mean, Dalvin Cook was running through bus lanes.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Like, that defense, I don't know what's up with that Steelers defense.
I think they were
drinking a bunch of dudes.
They were sipping too much of their own tea. They were buying into it, all the hype, and it's just not looking like a cohesive unit. I'm going to tell you what, though. This is one of those spot games. I really like the Titans. The Niners are really hot and due for a loss. I really like Mike Vrabel and his defensive mind again versus Kyle Shanahan and his offensive mind. I'm going to take the defensive mind in that. And I just think after a tough loss versus a few big wins on a short week, I'm leaning Titans heavily, and I think that might be an official play for me. And I definitely love teasing them with something. If I can get them at 10, for sure. Rob, what do you think here?
I like the Titans. I was gonna my thought was gonna be the same as yours. It's the same thing as what we've been talking about for this time of year. I think the Titans home team, short week, more desperate team than the Niners coming off a pretty solid win at home against Atlanta. Titans come off a tough loss in Pittsburgh. Now they're coming back home for a Thursday night short week. They got to get it. They're in the thick of it. They got to get a win. I like them here, and I would take the 3 now. The home 3. I like that, and maybe even money line as well for the Titans.
Yeah,
I would lean that way. And from the looks at it right now, they're getting about 68% on 37% of the tickets. So there's some pretty heavy money going towards the +3 now as well. So I mean, I like I would like locking it in now. And I mean, if we had to play guess the line, I would say maybe it goes down. You could see a 2.5 pop up tomorrow morning, or maybe even a 2. That'd be my guess.
I wouldn't be surprised if it closed at 2 personally. Sean, is there a model for short week home dogs on
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Not that I have at my fingertips right now.
Yeah, okay. I would like to know what that is off the top of my head. I might throw that on the Twitter. Everybody go follow, take your pick on Twitter. We're throwing out good plays. Basketball's been halted due to many different reasons. We'll touch base on that later. But all right, I'm glad we have a consensus on the Titans. Not all 3 of us are making that official plays, but I like that we all lean at least lean that direction. The early game on Christmas Day, I'm looking at it again, man, and I have to like the Browns here. Giving me over a touchdown. The Packers, I feel like just the way this season's going and how much it's shaken up at the top of every playoff race, the Packers just got the 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken, and I feel like this game's tight Christmas Day, especially if the Browns are getting right, coming off a heartbreaking loss. I like them to slow it down, keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. I think Stefanski just runs the ball religiously. And I think the Browns keep that close. I definitely see that game going way under as well. How do you guys feel
about
that?
I like that underplay. I need to see them get some guys back from COVID first. I would like them to get a Landry, a Baker, some of the linemen. I mean, that team that played, what was that, Monday? They played? Mm-hmm. I mean, there was nobody on that freaking team. I'm not backing that team against Aaron Rodgers, but if they get some guys back, I love getting over the touchdown.
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait until Friday to pull the trigger on that, but I agree with you. I think I might lock it in now. Give me that 7.5, and then if guys do come back, I know that thing's going to drop to probably 6. I would say if Baker starts, you get some linemen back, you get some weapons back. I would say that probably drops down to 5.5, 6. So I think if you think people are going to get healthy, you would bet the Browns right now. Or if you would want to bet the Packers, you should sit on it. Rob, what do you think in that one?
So I definitely think there's a play on the under at this point. Looking at it right now, again, under's getting 83% of the love on 34% of the tickets. So I mean, that's a huge difference right there. It's still relatively early. You've had a couple moves in on the under this week at 45.5. If that's what you can get at your book, if you like the under, and I agree, I like it as well in this game. Understanding we may not know everybody that's playing yet. I would lock it in now before that goes lower, because I feel like that would get lower before, again, guess the line. I feel like that might go lower at this point, especially given the amount of money that's on there and what it has moved to so far before it gets any higher, maybe something like 44.5 or 44. And then I lean Browns as well. I think I could see the game. Certainly, if Mayfield plays, I'll take a touchdown and a half. Absolutely. If that's given that's an unknown still right now, I may hold. If I really wanted to make an early play for this game, I'd play on the under. But right now, it's a wait and see for me. But I do lean. I lean towards the Browns as well.
You know what I love about that underplay too? all the early money, all the sharp money's coming in right now. You already know Christmas Day when everybody gets some money from their grandpa, everybody's hammering the over.
And they're going to hammer the Packers. They're going to hammer the Packers. Yeah, like they already are.
And hammer the over. So you know that's going to happen. And I'm just going to love it. Be contrarian to what the general public thinks. So here's the tough one. And to be honest with you, I don't know what to think. I put an early play in on the Cardinals at 2, and I'm seeing it at 1.5 now. Are the Cardinals are the wheels off after that Lions loss? Because if you lose this game right here, the Cardinals are going to get dropped down, and they're going to end up playing an away playoff game. They're going to go from having a first-round bye to playing an away playoff game.
Yeah, and it's a primetime game at home, right? And I think like on our last time we chatted, and I said I got burned by the Cardinals this past week. I'm sure a lot of people did on teasers and parlays and all that stuff. But they're not right now, and I'm not sure if coming home is the best thing. My thought was getting on the road against a bad team like Detroit would be a better deal, just the way that they've played home against the on the road. But again, I think we're getting in that territory where the Cardinals need this one for the just like as you said, and I think the Colts are coming off a high, on a couple pretty big games. So this could be a letdown spot for them. So I could, I would wait and see. I mean, if it came down from the 2 to the 1. I would probably wait and see what it looks like, Christmas morning, get a vibe for how the market's going to play during the day because it is so close. But I do like the Cardinals in this one.
I think the Cardinals are in an absolute must-win situation because if they lose this game, they're in major trouble. And I hate to say it, I was so wrong about the Cardinals going into the season. And then throughout the better part of, I want to say 10 weeks before Kyler Murray got hurt, I got burned by them almost every single week. And it's unfortunate. As soon as I stopped fading them, they started to come crashing down to earth. I think all three of us actually as a whole faded the Cardinals throughout the entire first 8 weeks.
Heavy.
And we got bit by that.
Power fade.
I think they're showing their true colors now. But who do you think the public darling is in this matchup? I really don't know. I don't know if it is the Cardinals off of the Lions loss and the Colts just kind of beat up the Patriots. What'd you say, Sean? Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
All right. I think the Colts are definitely the darling, the public favorite here for sure. I think everyone's fallen in love with the offensive line with Jonathan Taylor, and I just don't think long term that's sustainable. I mean, this is similar to me to the Niners when they went to the Super Bowl. At some point, your quarterback is going to have to throw the ball. Jimmy G, those 2-3 games leading up to the Super Bowl, he was throwing like 12 times, 13 times. At some point, your quarterback's going to have to make a throw, and I don't know if that's going to be this week or not. I'll be on the Cardinals, but long term, I'm not buying the Colts. And I think everyone's really starting to key in on them as well.
Well, I think you make a good point, and this is a great matchup to back it. Come playoff time, you're going to have to see those Andy Reid offenses with the dudes that can back it up and sling it. And can Jonathan Taylor run for 350 to keep pace? And I just this is no knock to him because he can run for 250, but I just don't think he could score. Actually, I was about to say something he already did. I just don't think he can keep up with a team like the Chiefs. My thing is, though, man, the Colts defense is tough. I love Darius Leonard. Love him. That's a great linebacker. They have a solid D-line, solid secondary. I mean, they check up with people. This comes down to, is Kyler Murray the new Russell Wilson, where he creates magic after the play, magic out of the pocket? Because Russell Wilson certainly is showing that he's just not physically capable. I don't know if it's his thumb or what it is, but something's off physically for sure. But Kyler Murray hasn't looked great. Clearly missing DeAndre Hopkins hurts, like you brought up earlier today. But they still have weapons. I think this is a game where if I'm Kingsbury, I'm giving James Conner the ball. And I'm letting him dictate the tempo. And if you can establish the run on them, then you can hit them with the play action and let Kyler Murray really do what he's best at doing. That would be my game plan. I lean Cardinals just because the Colts are hot and the way the season's going, the ebbs and flows of everything. I like Titans, Browns, Cardinals, but that could all change. And then who knows who gets hit with the COVID bug at any given moment. That's a whole other thing that I think we should kind of touch on. How is the NFL making these decisions? Or are they making
like they
it up
make
as
every other decision? Yeah, isn't that like they do everything else?
Yeah. They totally backtracked on what they said they were going to do preseason. And they said they weren't going to move games. If you have a COVID outbreak due to an unvaccinated player, we're not going to reschedule. You have to forfeit. But they did that. And then what it ended up doing, it didn't even help the Redskins. It just took away from the Eagles roster. But I will say this, for fantasy football purposes, I'm really hoping they reschedule that Chiefs game and I can get Tyreek Hill back. But I'm selfish. That's no secret.
I mean, they've set the precedence now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is
So, I
what
mean,
it is.
nothing's off limits at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if on the NFL, you have two huge fan bases, move that thing to Tuesday. And I'll say another thing. It should be the norm to have a 5 o'clock and an 8 o'clock Monday night football game. I don't even care. I want to come home from work and turn on my TV and just football be on. Meaningful football, too.
Long overdue.
That was a nice treat. Granted, the matchup was terrible. The game was terrible, but it was still a nice treat to come home to.
Yeah, first week of every year when we get that doubleheader on Monday night, you're just like, why isn't this every week? I mean, we go through a whole slate, with action sprinkled here and there, and we love the red zone, but it's like you could definitely take one of those 1 o'clock games that's not getting enough love, throw it on Monday night, back-to-back 5-8, and you got back-to-back games that you could put your attention into on primetime on Monday night.
Especially like small market teams, like nobody cares about. Nobody's going to like teams that aren't on TV. Put the Jaguars on. Put a Trevor Lawrence story up.
But that's what Thursday night's for.
What?
That's what Thursday night's for.
Yeah.
Thursday night's the Jaguars night. Yeah. We're London. Yeah.
That's what Thursday night and 9:30 games are for.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like I really like Christian Kirk to have a game in that Cardinals game. I really like, just off the top of my head, I think Deontay Foreman has another game. If you can key in on Deebo Samuel, I don't like him this week, actually. He's an absolute monster, him and Cordero Patterson. But if you take him out of the mix and you make Jimmy G beat you, I would take the unders on Deebo Samuel, rushing, receiving, whatever lines are throwing out there. I would take the over on Deontay Foreman. I would take the over on Nick Chubb for sure. I think he's going to get at least 20 touches this week, especially if they can get that O-line back. And then I think Christian Kirk has a really big week against the Colts. Are there any other props that you guys like going into this?
I haven't given it a ton of thought personally. I like fading Debo though. I think Vrabel is definitely going to scheme something up. If there's one guy I'm not letting beat me this week, it's Debo freaking Samuel. I mean, every week they're doing some end around or whatever bullshit, and he's getting in the end zone every week, and like
Guy's a
nobody does anything
monster.
about it.
Guy's a monster.
Yeah, really. Honestly, kid's just a football player. You put him
for
wherever.
sure. Bro, he's that like Pee Wee football nightmare. And honestly,
Yeah,
God,
for sure.
he doesn't even. There's like times where I don't like. He doesn't look that big, and then when you get up close on him and they show like a close shot, dude's gigantic. That's a bad man. But when you're named Debo, you have to live up to it.
You have to be. Yep.
Yeah, I think Nick Chubb has a really big game just off a game script. The way to beat the Packers, keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands, and you have to control the game clock. So that's how I would do it. And the Cardinals are going to have to win by going to the air. And I guess right now is Christian Kirk their best option?
Yeah, what do they got? Him and AJ Green? And the rookie, Rondale Moore?
Yeah, I would start off early with James Conner. I would like to bet him. And honestly, you might get a decent number on a James Conner first touchdown score because you know it's going to be all Jonathan Taylor love. You might be able to get a decent number on that. James Conner, I think they start with that, and then you're going to have to go to the air, and I think the way to beat the Colts is to just outrun them. Get up early, apply pressure, make them have to throw the ball. Yes, that's how I would do it.
Another quick look in that game could be Zach Ertz. Hunter Henry lit up the Colts last week or whenever that was, and without D-Hop first game, Ertz had like 11 targets or something last game.
Maybe get
like that.
Ertz sneak one in.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. Yeah. Actually, I'd like to see what that number is.
If you really like the Cardinals in this game, my thought in terms of player props, my thought in terms of like looking at the game flow, I agree with you guys. Like I think if the Cardinals are in this game and they want to win, they need to establish some momentum early, whether they do so run then pass or pass then run, but they need to get up on the Colts and they need to take Jonathan Taylor and that game plan out of the game. They got to make them throw the ball, make them push the ball in order to keep up. And if that's the case, then I would look to maybe target some unders on Jonathan Taylor. And see if there's anything, depending on how high those lines have moved, just with how he's been playing, and maybe take advantage of that. Because, again, if you like the Cardinals in this game, I mean, the way I see them, again, beating the Colts right now is, it's not necessarily keeping Carson Wentz off the field as it is as much as Jonathan Taylor, because he's been a machine, a workhorse this year. I think he's a great back. So, I could see that, maybe throwing some of those in there, depending on, or maybe comboing it with any of the Cardinal love, in some kind of same game parlay or anything like that to just make it give it a little extra juice.
All right. I'm going to give you 3 official plays for me. Titans and the Cardinals. Another official play, I really like the thought that you had. Zach Ertz sneaking in the end zone. I really like that. I think that's going to be an official play for me. I think that'll be a good value bet on like half a unit. I'm going to take the Titans +3. I might even throw something on the money line there. I like them to win that game outright. I'm going to take the Browns +7.5. I'm going to make that unofficial though, just because of all the COVID. If they throw out the same lineup they did on Monday against the Packers, they're going to get their doors blown off. So I don't want to advise anybody to follow me on that one. And I like the Cardinals -1.5. I have them at 2, but I think I'm going to double down. And I like Zach Ertz to score a touchdown. What do you guys think?
I like the Titans. I'll probably be playing the Titans as I don't know. That's going to be a last second thing for me. I may play the under in that game, or do what you were talking about before in the same game parlay, teasing the Titans and probably the under. And I'll go official with the Cardinals for sure.
Okay.
I feel like that's just the ultimate like sell on the Colts, sell high, buy low on the Cardinals, who everybody loved 2 weeks ago, and now everyone hates.
I agree. And that's how we make our money. It's all about the spots. Sell a team everybody loves, buy the team everybody hates. Also, official play, Browns Packers under. I'm putting that in as well. I'm going to throw that out there tonight on the Twitter. Rob, what do you got?
Yeah, I think for taking through the slate, I like the Titans as well. I'll play the 3 points. I'll take the 3 points at home. I'll also play the money line at 143 is what I'm seeing right now. I like both those sides for Titans tomorrow night. I also like the under, the 45.5 for the Browns Packers. I'm going to lock that in right now as well to keep it at 40, at least 45.5, because I think if anything that gets lower. Again, taking the Cardinals as well with you guys, -1. I'll ride the Cardinals. I think it's a bounce back week for them. Colts are ready, due for a letdown spot. So that's a play for me. And I'm going to ride with our boy, Zach Ertz, and let's see him get in the end zone as well. So I'll add that one onto that game as well. So give me Titans either way, that under, and then Cardinals and Zach Ertz.
Beautiful. Show them real fast before we go. We have to touch on this NBA situation. You were doing pretty well throughout the year until, it's impossible to handicap these games. Do you think at any point in time in the near future, things are going to start to look up for the NBA, or what can we do?
I think it's tough to say unless it's tough to predict what they're going to do, if they're going to do anything, or if they're going to do something like the NFL did and try and rearrange some protocols and testing out days. But the league is a shit show right now.
Yeah.
Almost every single team is missing multiple guys from COVID. I just stopped handicapping it altogether. I'm taking a week or two off, and just until we can get some more information.
Yeah. Like we were talking about before we got on here, you got ISO Joe coming back from 2-3 years off at 40. You got to give credit where it's due. He's a physical specimen to be able to do that. But how do you handicap a game that a dude that's been tearing up the big three on a 3v3 half court set, and then he's going to go run full court in the NBA? At 29, I couldn't do it. So I know his body's got a lot of wear and tear. Sometimes you got to tip your cap, but I'm with you. I don't think there's anything we could even really. We're not even able to talk about the Christmas Day slate, which is unfortunate because it's been so good for the last couple of years. Because it is in shambles. There's nothing we can put out there for anybody to bet on. Because it could between now and when this is put out, it could be completely different. And we might not even know.
There are Christmas Day games.
That's even. Yeah. They're talking about canceling them.
I haven't heard anybody talk about canceling them, but I don't think they're trying to cancel games. They've canceled a couple now, but I think that just creates a whole nother issue. But the Hawks play the Knicks. The Hawks are missing 7-8 dudes right now. It's like John Collins by himself out there tonight. Nobody wants to watch that anyway. And you got the NFL games. We're just wasting our time here.
Yeah, they need to come up with a new protocol, especially with all these dudes that if you're vaccinated, whatever, we got to figure out something that is conducive for letting them play and at least getting back on the court in a timely manner. Yeah, I don't know. This is why they pay Adam Silver the big bucks. And this is why we get on here and do this for free. So I have nothing good to add to this conversation. Hopefully they can figure it out for us. So you can get back to making some money. Yeah, boys, I feel pretty good about it. I don't really have much to add to anything coming up in the next couple days. Is there anything any of you guys wanted to touch up on before we go?
No, I'm feeling good about the Christmas slate. I mean, if we can't rely on steady NBA rosters, then I guess we can't really rely on steady NFL rosters either. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to having a couple games on Christmas Day to look forward to.
Yeah, I will say it's a treat to go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It is nice. I know it's not good for rest and player safety, but being a consumer, it's a pretty beautiful thing. Yeah, boys, I'm tapped out. And for anybody listening, subscribe, leave some comments, let us know what you think. I'm all ears for hot takes. Anything we can do to improve, we'd love to hear it. And that's all I have, boys.
Good stuff.
All right, gentlemen, we will be back soon. We'll talk Sunday. We'll get into it again.
Sounds
All right,
good.
guys, you have yourselves a nice night. All right.
Sounds good, fellas. Take care.
All right, sounds good.
All right.